What could the state budget process mean for local school districts? I'm Jill Horner. This is Comcast Newsmakers. With me this hour is Pennsylvania State Representative Stephen Bloom. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Jill. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about where we are right now in the budget process as it relates to education. Where do we stand between the House version and the governor's version as it relates to education spending?
Well, the Pennsylvania Republican-led House has put forth a counter-proposal to Governor Corbett's budget. What we've done is we've kept with the basic premise that we don't want to raise any taxes. We want to make sure it's a balanced budget that stays within the overall spending number that the governor proposed, which is actually a cut in state spending for the first time in many, many years. But what we've done is we've reallocated some of that money that's inside that budget to make sure that we are adequately funding our schools, whether it's K through 12 or our state institutions of higher education, to make sure that they're not being unfairly singled out in the budget process, and we're looking to other areas, in particular the Department of Public Welfare, to make some cuts in areas where we know there's been fraud and abuse and waste documented, in order to take those dollars on a dollar-for-dollar basis and move them into the education program. So I think this budget is a lot more education friendly. I think it meets some of the concerns that the folks in the education community expressed about making sure we are adequately funding those programs for our kids. But at the same time, it's still a very fiscally responsible budget that does not raise taxes on Pennsylvanians and keeps us within the parameters of actually cutting the size and scope of government.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the other proposals put forward, and these include what's been called mandate relief for local districts.
Well,
what kind of impact could this have?
This is a really big key to what we're doing in the state house. We don't want to just tell the school districts, hey, you're getting less money and live with it. We're also trying to help unleash them or take them out of being locked into a number of state mandates that require that they spend a lot more money than necessary. Over the years, there's been rules put in place. For example, a school district in Pennsylvania, if they're short on funds, they can't just go and lay off 1 or 2 teachers to meet budget. Under the rules that they're currently operating under, they have to actually eliminate an entire program if they need to cut their expenses. So they'll have to lay off maybe all the art teachers or all the music teachers or all the home studies teachers, whatever the case may be. Under what we're trying to do in terms of mandate relief, we're going to say schools have the option again to make smart decisions like any other operational enterprise would have to do, to say if we don't have the funds, we can cut one of our poor performing teachers here, we can cut one of our less well performing teachers there, and instead of having to eliminate whole programs, they can make sensible reductions in their overall staffing level while keeping the programs intact. So that's a really exciting piece of the mandate relief bill that will help the schools make budget even with less state dollars.
There's another provision related to prevailing wage for projects. What would this do?
Right now, under Pennsylvania law, if you're going to build anything with public funds, you have to pay what's called prevailing wage, which is basically an inflated union scale wage, even in areas where the normal operational cost wouldn't be that high to build something. So with mandate relief on prevailing wage, we're trying to propose ways where the schools could actually pay less for the projects. So the current estimates are that under prevailing wage laws, on public projects, we pay anywhere from 15 to 30% more than is actually necessary to build those projects. So we're basically losing a lot of the bang for the buck we could get with taxpayer dollars. So we're looking at trying to roll back prevailing wage in such a way that the schools can do the projects they need to do, and this applies to townships and municipalities as well. They can do the projects they need to do, get more bang for the buck, stretch the taxpayer dollar further, and do all that without spending any new money.
And we just have a few seconds left, but unanticipated revenue is projected to come into the state, hundreds of millions of dollars.
There's been a lot of talk about this so-called budget surplus, an extra $500 million that was supposedly coming into the state treasury. All that really is that the anticipated revenues slightly exceeded what was expected. So where we find ourselves is there's a little bit more coming in than expected, but we've got billions in expenses and debt that we've got to cover first before we can even think about spending that so-called extra money.
Thanks so much. Come back and give us an update. Let us know how this budget is progressing.
Yes, thank you, Jill.
Thank you. We've been talking with Pennsylvania State Representative Stephen Bloom. I'm Jill Horner.